Today is a special day on the Hebrew calendar. The 15th day of the month of Adar is known as Shushan Purim. In Jerusalem, where Purim is celebrated on this day, the sanctity of Shabbat takes precedence, so the celebration is deferred until tomorrow. This confluence of events reminds us that Jewish history, much like the Purim story itself, is often unpredictable, requiring adaptation, resilience, and faith in the face of uncertainty. During difficult times like these, I think that's an important message to hear and reflect upon, to be conscious of the extraordinary ways our very ancient holidays and rituals have endured through time. These days, as Jews and as Canadians, I think all of us are feeling the weight of tragedy, the burden of uncertainty, and the fear of what may come. It's a difficult time to feel hopeful. But the story of Purim is a powerful reminder that we have been here before. We have faced moments where our very survival was in question, and yet we endured. We emerged stronger. We must hold on to the knowledge that just as we have overcome past tragedies, so too will we overcome the tragedies of our own time. But we can't simply rely on endurance. We have to act. History does not favor the bystander. Rare indeed is the person who knowingly shapes the course of Jewish history. From Moses to Jonah, Jeremiah to Queen Esther, the burden of leadership has been met with resistance, hesitation, and fear. Even those who embrace their roles, like Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, are often tormented by the weight of their decisions for years after. Who was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai? He is a really important figure to know in our Jewish story. He reshaped Judaism as we know it. The Talmud, in several sources, tells his story. He lived during the time of the destruction of the Second Temple in Jerusalem, and he realized that there was no way that Jerusalem could survive the Roman onslaught. And he conceded Jerusalem was lost, conceded it to the Romans. Instead, he focused on what could be preserved and had an idea to resurrect Jewish life in a city called Yavne in the Galilee. It was a decision that he made in darkness, without clarity, without certainty. But it was his choice that allowed Jerusalem to re-emerge in a different way, certainly allowed Judaism to re-emerge and flourish beyond the destruction of the temple. Contrast this with the story of another rabbi, a contemporary of Yochanan ben Zakkai, named Zechariah ben Avkolus. He was present at the banquet famous for the affair of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, the affair of the mistaken party invitation. Though his influence might have prevented the disgrace of Bar Kamsa, he did not exercise it. Later, when the emperor sends a blemished calf as an offering to the temple, and there was a question about whether to accept it, Zechariah refrained from voting and rendered the decision negative. The people wanted to kill Bar Kamsa so that he should not be able to tell the emperor of the whole story. But Zechariah once again restrained them from carrying out their design. He was given the opportunity to act several times, but as the story recounts, He was paralyzed by fear and inaction. His hesitation cost us dearly. I will quote for you the words of the Talmud. The inaction of Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulos destroyed our house, burnt our temple, and exiled us from the land. We see the same dynamic in the Purim story, the challenge of whether to act or whether we are gripped by hesitation. Esther did not see herself as a leader. She was, towards the beginning of the story, hesitant, unsure, afraid. She needed Mordecai to offer her words that would pierce through her doubt. And who knows if it is for a moment like this that you reached royalty, Mordecai says to her. The fate of the Jewish people rested on her willingness to step forward and act decisively. How many Jewish leaders throughout history have faced this moment? How many of us, even today, hear the echoes of Mordecai's challenge in our own struggles? We have no problem feeling sorry for ourselves, but we do struggle to take action. Decisive action is often lonely and thankless. Mordecai, despite saving the Jewish people, was beloved, according to the Megillah, only by the majority of the people. His activism was controversial. Some people believe the whole Purim episode, even the threat of genocide, was Mordecai's fault, since he refused to bow down to Haman in the first place. Some among the rabbinic leadership distanced themselves from Mordecai, believing that salvation should come through Torah study alone. The same skepticism met Theodor Herzl, who envisioned a Jewish state when others scoffed at the idea. Yet history vindicated them both. Purim is such an underappreciated holiday. If you think that it is just about costumes, carnivals, and Hamantaschen, you're missing the point. The Megillah marks a historical turning point in our relationship with God. No longer do miracles part the sea or summon fire from the heavens. Instead, God's presence is hidden. Esther, the hidden one, and human beings must take central stage. The responsibility of shaping the future of the Jewish people rests on our shoulders. Purim represents an entirely new era, an era where redemption does not come from above, but from within. This theme of decisive leadership coming from within is echoed in this week's Torah portion. In the aftermath of the sin of the golden calf, Moses stands at a crossroads. The people have betrayed God, and divine wrath is imminent. Moses could have done nothing, but instead he refuses to abandon them. He intercedes. He pleads on their behalf, even at great personal risk. He says, "If you would forgive their sin, well and good, but if not, erase me from your book that you have written." Moses' leadership, like Esther's, is defined by his willingness to step into the breach, to act boldly for the sake of his people, even when the cost is great. And what of us? What of our own community, for example? This synagogue is at a crossroads. We are facing serious challenges that call our sustainability into question. We can stand by, lamenting the difficulties, hesitating, waiting for a miracle, or we can rise to the occasion. We can think creatively, take bold steps, and embrace risk in order to ensure our future. Just as Mordecai challenged Esther, just as Yochanan ben Zakkai seized the moment, we have to recognize that this is our time. The survival of our synagogue depends on our ability to act with courage and conviction. After millennia of exile, persecution, and the unfathomable horrors of the Holocaust, the Jewish people achieved a monumental return to their ancestral homeland about 80 years ago. This return was not an act of colonization, but a profound reclamation of our indigenous heritage, a people returning to the land God promised to them, where our patriarchs and matriarchs walked, where our prophets preached, where our kings ruled. As it faces attacks aimed at its delegitimization, this is our moment to defend it every way we can and to celebrate unabashedly our national revival in our homeland. Yes, we have challenges in our day, but all of these stories I offer to you so that the underlying message be clear and resonant. Purim may be the one Jewish holiday that doesn't connect directly to Israel, but thematically, it couldn't be more similar. On these days of Purim, the message is supernatural deliverance is important, but in this era, human courage is so much more. This holiday is a testament to our ability to rise above fear, to take action, to shape our own future. And I find great strength, and I hope you do too, in this realization. As we mark Shushan Purim, we reaffirm our faith that just as we have triumphed before, so too will we triumph again. And in the spirit of Mordecai and Esther, of Moshe Rabbeinu, of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, of the IDF soldiers who are protecting our homeland and confronting the enemy, let us have the courage to act, to lead, to shape the future of our people with hope, strength, and conviction. Shabbat Shalom.